Yo folks, Zig here. That's right, it's an introduction. We haven't done one of those in so long. I know you've been begging for them because they're just so good and I am so funny. Wow, that's really self-aggrandizing. I wish I wouldn't have said that. Anyway, the reason I'm doing this intro is to let you know that we recorded this at Ian Pfaff. That's right, he's returning. He's our first return guest. I recorded it at his house in his garage, one of the garage casts, so you may notice the audio quality isn't as it sounds when we're usually recording in studio, but it doesn't matter because it still sounds good. And also, Ian Pfaff is a funny, hilarious guy, and he has a bunch of great stories. Anyway, I'm going to stop rambling because I need to get back to work instead of taking this break out to record this intro. This is second team out, Ian Pfaff in.
My mom is from Panama, and her, and so she had all the aunts and uncles and stuff from Spain, and so we have some extended family that live in France.
Oh.
And so I remember visiting them in like college, and it was my great uncle Jean, who's this doctor in Bordeaux, France, and their house was built out of pieces of old castles.
Oh, wow.
Nice. It's like France. It's like you just find a castle that fell apart, and you're like, I like that staircase, and no, give me that. And so there's this amazing house built out of old castles. And in Bordeaux, France, where like the best wine comes from, and since he was the local doctor, the vineyard guys would just pay him in wine. And so their garage, he had like 30 of these like, big red like gas tank things like that you put in your car for a long trip, like emergency, just full of the best wine in the world. And he would just fill up a carafe with this gas tank.
Wow.
And in his big house that was a castle, he had this whole room dedicated to Dixieland jazz because he was obsessed with Dixieland jazz.
What?
And he played clarinet in a Dixieland jazz band. But it was ridiculous because in this house made out of castles in Bordeaux, big Confederate flag, all this like Louis Armstrong paraphernalia and stuff, and then he was obsessed with Dixieland jazz and Jacques Daniels, and so like all this Jack Daniels paraphernalia, everything in this castle, just like Confederate flags and Jack Daniels shit everywhere.
Wow. And he was French?
Oh, French are like Jacques Daniels, Jacques Daniels.
I love the distillation of American culture.
Exactly.
It was just amazing. And the coolest thing is he had this framed letter that said like, I was like, hey, dear Jean, sorry I missed you last weekend. Hope things are going well with the band. See you next time you're in town. Louis Satchmo Armstrong.
Holy
and it was
shit.
just like he was like in this jazz band that went to New York back in the day, just this French Dixieland jazz band.
What?
That sounds
It was
crazy.
crazy. Yeah,
That
it's
is
like
crazy.
Jacques Daniels. But yeah, it was crazy.
Damn.
So I remember having cognac and Jack Daniels with him.
Bordeaux.
So that's what you're doing. You're mixing the two.
Yes.
Oui.
Ooh.
Jacques Daniels.
We'll start.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Welcome to
And
another...
action.
Sorry. All right, folks. Welcome to another episode of the Second Team, the podcast. Oh, you guys know this spiel by now. I've been doing it for 40 episodes. You know what the deal is. But I think this is the first because it's actually our first return guest.
Oh, word?
Yes, it is true. And we are back in the garage of Ian Pfaff in Glendale, California.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the show, Ian Pfaff.
Hey everyone, Ian Pfaff here. Good to be here. Good to be back with the second team.
How are things? Things have since I feel like you've had the most things happen to you since you've been on the show.
Yeah, I've had a crazy year. Ups and downs, peaks and valleys.
Yeah.
A phrase that when my movie Beach Pizza was falling apart, a phrase that I started using was, "The deeper the swell, the radder the waves." It's very much been that kind of year. So yeah, it's been a little over a year since I got back from the whole Beach Pizza fiasco. And it has been a whirlwind of just weird after weird and good stuff, bad stuff. It's been all over the place. Nothing I could have planned on. So
to catch people up, after you did our show, you got a job at a company, which I don't know if we can mention or not, but you got a job at a company.
Yeah, I'll be, throughout our interview today, I'll be as diplomatic as possible. I'll be using pronouns. I'll leave names out. So I'll do my best to leave any names and specifics out.
So you got a job as an in-house, what were you, like a director, editor? What were you doing at that?
I got a buddy of mine who's an editor hit me up. So I came back from Beach Pizza, And the way that Beach Pizza was set up is that, I was going to be working on this movie for a year and a half or whatever. And so I had nothing lined up. And was desperate for just a gig. And just kind of basically forced into freelance. And I've never worked freelance before. I don't have any contacts to do freelance. So rather than, have a steady gig, line up some freelance stuff, and then make the switch, I just was forced into freelance. And then learned the hard way that October is the worst time to go freelance in LA because basically October till January everything shuts down and they've already spent most of their money, or whatever money they have left they've already figured out what they're spending it on. So it was a lean couple of months there. And so when January rolled around, a buddy of mine hit me up, and he was working at this, I guess you could call it a startup. And so he's like, hey, but I showed him your stuff. They're looking for an in-house director guy, someone like you, and I think you'd be great. And so I went and met with them, and the office was in the Arts District of Los Angeles, which is hilarious. I don't know if you guys been to the Arts District.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's a joke. It's a parking lot. It's so funny. This is real gripey, but it's this weird thing where it's if you're in a band or you want to make movies or you want to do anything that is far reaching, you go to LA. That's where you end up. But if you want to do anything that has heart, soul, or is part of an actual scene or culture, you go to New Orleans or Austin or go to Minneapolis, but where they have huge art districts that are real. And this is just a couple buildings that someone bought and spray painted. It's all right, this is the art district. We'll put an expensive coffee shop and a turntable store, and hey, it's an art district. It's just all right, whatever. So, sorry for that gripey. So I went for my, important meeting at the Arts District, and the office that this place had was just a loft, an Airbnb loft that they had just kind of permanently rented, and that was their office, and that should have been the first sign that this wasn't completely on the level.
Yeah.
Then I had a meeting with them, and basically it ended up being this gig that seemed a little too good to be true. It paid really well, but nothing was on paper. It was all being paid by PayPal. The guy who ran the company, no one knew anything about him or where he was from. He was very mysterious. And it was all weird. And then I'd been there for and they basically hired me. They're like, all right, you're our new creative director. And I was like, all right, cool. It works for me. But they weren't making anything. I was there for 3 weeks and they hadn't made a single video. And the only directive that the boss had was let's make dope shit. Which sounded awesome. And so basically I was kind of losing my mind because it's one of the, I like making stuff, so it was just weird just to sit there and not do anything.
Yeah.
And for whatever, I think I was messing around on Spotify and saw that R. Kelly had come out with a new album, and I love R. Kelly.
Yeah.
And so I got all of a sudden all my R. Kelly obsession came back, and I got this idea this new lyric had the new album had the craziest lyrics yet, and I was like, God, what if you built a robot to write R. Kelly songs? I don't know if the robot could top whatever R. Kelly came up with, and so that's when I got this idea that I should read the lyrics to every single R. Kelly song ever made. And I made a list of words I'd be looking for, and I just wanted to get an actual algorithm to see how many times he used the word booty in all of his songs, or how many times he used the word sex, or F word, or bow-legged, And so I picked 27 words, and then I took 2 days at this job where they were just paying me not to do anything, and I literally read the lyrics to all of his songs and filled in this chart, and got it. And the numbers are hilarious. He says pregnant more than sexy. It's really funny. And what was interesting too, it was looking at a diary of a guy, because when he it's my understanding that he started out, he was basically homeless, couldn't read, and he was singing at an L stop in Chicago, and someone signed him.
Wow.
And so he just had this amazing voice. So his first album is mostly covers, Marvin Gaye songs, or just soul, very generic, just I love you baby type stuff. And then the next album where he got some success, he there's one or two songs where he talks about the club, or let's party.
Yeah.
And then the third album is straight up I'm gonna bang you and all your friends, we rolling up to the club, 40 dude, it's so gnarly. And then the album immediately after is all apology gospel music.
Yeah.
And so he has these arcs where you can see what's going on with him, where he's super deep into party mode and then really feels bad about it with the next album.
What was really impressive, because for what people couldn't see, is that Ian had like a desk that he built outside his house, and he had pictures of R. Kelly and like flow charts, and like, he was actually putting in the work to dissect all the lyrics that R. Kelly had done.
Yeah, and so anyhow, so I ended up making this video at this place that it's probably my favorite video I've made in a long time, where I ended up building this robot R. Kelly, made a fake music video for it, and made a song based on his most popular words, and the song's called Sex with a Robot. And then for the music video, we got 3 real strippers and just had them like grind all over this robot, and then I shot this fake documentary trying to make it seem like a real like video of me making it, and, like Cody's in it, and it was just so stupid, and it was so much fun. And that's when I was like, all right, this gig is weird, but this could really go somewhere. And then immediately after that, like the guy who ran the place decided to stop paying everybody. And over the next like month, it was this weird shit show of no one was getting paid. I had to get all like Game of Thrones, and like I had to like do some sneaky stuff to get paid. It was weird. Like it's been. I think the big thing that's been happening over this year is I keep getting put in these situations that are really weird, really unexpected, and I'm finding the only way to solve them is to be a dick.
It's so like antithesis to who.
Exactly. And so it's like I guess if there's anything from this year, it's like I've gotten good at being a dick, which. So that's the biggest bummer, is like any story I have from whether it's that job or the movie or just like whatever I've been up to this year, any story that I have where like I'm proud. When I tell it to someone, it's just me telling them a story about how I was an asshole. So it's like, you know, I'm like in my head, it's like, and then I said this, and then I just can see like the faces on people just kind of like, oh, that's kind of mean, man. It's just like, oh well, shit, like. So it's a weird, like, personally, like I think it's a good trait to like just know how to
like stick up for yourself,
stick up, or just like just kind of call something out, which I've never been good at. And
how would you deal with the situations before?
A lot of it just roll with it. Like I remember I took one freelance when I first moved out here and was so desperate for work. I remember I did this freelance like sizzle edit for $150 and I did 12 revisions on it.
Oh, I think
it lasted like a month.
That person.
Yeah. And it was just like one of those things where it's like, you know, because I guess I've just always had that mindset of just like, which I don't think is a bad mindset, like realizing like, oh, it's good that I have this gig, but I think we were just talking about, like, right out of college, like, I got a gig and was like, whatever you need, you got it. And then it's only, like, the last couple years where it's like, okay, like, I have some worth I'm bringing to this thing. And, like, maybe, you know. But anyhow, but the stuff that's been happening this year is, like, way beyond any normal gigs. Like, this is just, everything is, like, diabolical. Like, it seems like, it's been weird. Like this one gig is on its own of just the guy deciding not to pay anyone, and he was doing this crazy stuff where he would sit everyone down to say, "All right, I'm going to pay you all. Just wait here at the office. I'm going to go to the bank and get cash." And then he just wouldn't come back. Like people would sit around the office for like 5-6 hours, and he just wouldn't come back. It was stuff like that. Like it was crazy.
That's so like. Unapologetically.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was weird, man. And so I had to get all like, I won't get too into it, but like basically, I like got his business partner's email somehow, and then just emailed them like, "Hey, boss said you're going to give me this money. When can we meet up?" It was basically how it worked. It was like Game of Thrones. Like it was just, it was so like but it was weird. And I think part of it, too, is I've got a kid now and another one on the way. So it's like a lot of this stuff before would just be like, oh, whatever, man.
Yeah, I'll figure it out.
All of a sudden it's like, ugh. That's a lot of... Yeah, so I think it's... With responsibility comes being a dick.
Yeah. That's the name of this episode.
With responsibility comes being a dick.
So you were... I can't remember how long you were at that gig, because like, I think I had been out here... I'd been at UCB for maybe like 2 or 3 months when you got that gig, I think.
Yeah, it was short. It was like maybe 2 months tops, if that. Yeah, it was 2 months.
So then, what was after you having to lay it down on them?
Well, this is the weird thing. This is why I'd like to think I'm cursed because it's been such a weird year. But at the same time, like, I was as weird and as crazy as this year's been. It's like it also hasn't been bad. Like, you know,
it seems like this like. Bad things are happening, but you keep falling upward. Exactly. Yeah. Job to feature the TV show.
Yeah. And so, like, last December, I had a meeting with ABC about doing this ABC digital series with Zach and Jess, who UCB, great people, worked with them at Nickelodeon. But yeah, they're awesome. Zach Reno and Jess McKenna and. I met them when I was working at Nickelodeon. There were some of the writers there, and like my favorite videos that I did at Nickelodeon were ones that they wrote, and we just got along real well. And so I guess they pitched this idea that ABC Digital was going to make as like a web series, and they got me a meeting to go have with ABC and blah blah blah. So I had that in December, and then never heard anything. And then it just so happened that right as this one gig, the Nightmare gig, fell apart, and I was like, oh no, what am I going to do? I get the phone call like, hey, the serious music thing's happening. We need you next week. I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Amazing.
So, and then that whole experience ended up being pretty cool. It was, they're awesome. Everyone we worked with on it was great. We got this kid, Tyler Perez, who played, I guess the premise of the show is like, Zach and Jess play this comedy music duo that make like a comedy music rap song that blows up on the internet, and then a Justin Bieber type character doesn't get that it's a joke and hires them to be his new producers. And so we we got this guy who was just amazing. We were doing all these auditions for the kid to go as the Justin Bieber, and I think what we were getting was a lot of kind of bratty Disney channel, like kids playing it like kind of like a bratty like mom, look, yeah. And, I just remembered, like, all the dudes in high school that were really good at music just wanted to get laid.
Yeah.
And, like, so this is an 18-year-old music star who's kind of like Bieber. And then I started thinking about, like, R. Kelly, and it's like, and I said, like, have you ever seen, like, the Mark Wahlberg workout video from the 90s?
I have seen clips.
Like a real
thing.
Like, he's actually Mark Wahlberg in it, the video.
Oh, it's Marky Mark, and it's, like, him doing, like, it's, like, nasty. It's amazing. But anyhow, so it's like I kind of had this image in my head of like this character needs to be like an R. Kelly or a Marky Mark, like, and then this one kid came in and auditioned and nailed it, like it was amazing. And I remember after the audition, they were talking like, well, we like the one guy or we like the one guy, and I was like, no, it's this guy. And they're like, well, why? And I was like, because that's the only kid who wants to get his dick sucked. And it was just so much because they were like, oh yeah. And then this guy ended up being amazing because he just got that character.
Yeah.
And rather than like try to make like, he didn't say any funny lines. Like he would do all these ad libs, but they weren't jokes. He was just he had the character so down that whatever he ad libbed would just be so perfect, and it was just, and so like so many of his ad libs ended up making the final cut because they're just so dead on. So it was like, and that's my biggest gripe with a lot of comedy stuff is like jokes that feel too written or like feel like the third version of a joke, and it's like this guy. It's like there was no joke; he was just playing a funny character, and he nailed it.
Everyone that I've talked to has loved the series, but also really enjoyed his performances in it.
Oh, just great. And we got him saying Spring Break in there a couple times.
Yeah, the Ian Pfaff trademark.
Yeah. But yeah, and so like Zach and Jess were awesome to work with. That kid was awesome to work with. Like it was a really good thing. And then the shoot was crazy too. Like I think we shot a 70-some pages in 8 days, I think.
So you said you got a call like a week before for this, right?
Yeah, but we had like about a month to prep. So like we didn't. Yeah,
what prep you were doing if you had.
Oh, this is also a good setup for the movie. So, so for this ABC digital web series, we probably had a good month of prep. That, like, not solid prep, but like I met with them a month before we started shooting, and then a week later met with like wardrobe and. Locations, it was like constantly getting things figured out. So by the time we shot, we knew all of our locations. We'd been to them several times. Brought on this buddy of mine, Aaron Ulrich, who shot pretty much everything I did at Funny or Die, and he was the DP for this. And like he and I work really well together, and he's awesome. And so we were able to work really fast. which is great. And it's funny. Aaron and I have this really good shorthand on set.
Yeah, can you give us an example?
Yeah, so it'd be like, and it's funny because to me, I don't even think about it. So Jess was telling me that like she was telling her boyfriend what it's like being on set, and it's like, so Ian will walk over to Aaron and say, all right, so for this shot, start out a little meh, and then go into some spring break, bring up the Michael Bay, and then sprinkle some cinnamon on top. But it's one of those things like Aaron's just like, all right, cool. And what it means is like, meh, just means like any boring, wide, who cares shot.
Yeah.
And then spring break is movement, so it's either a dolly move or a zoom or something. Bay means lens flare, and cinnamon is cinema, so it just means make it look cool.
Yeah.
Cinnamon. I love that.
Sprinkle some cinnamon on it.
I love that. There was you had like a fire beer here one night, and you had what was his name, Ryan? Aaron. No, what was the guy that played the just?
Oh yeah, Ryan. Right.
Ryan was over here, and he was just talking about. Like, I didn't have no idea what the fuck he was talking about.
Yeah, that was fun too with him playing the like Marky Mark type character. I made this thing where I printed out like a meter, like an odometer type thing, and on one end it said cartoony. Up in the middle it said like sleazy, and then all the way at the other end it said dirtbag. And then I made this needle, so on set I would point the needle where I wanted him to play it. And we ended up leaving the needle on dirtbag the whole time.
Oh, that's so funny.
Very fun, because he'd just be like acting a scene, I'd just be holding the needle and just be like,
I'm totally gonna steal that.
Yeah, it was real fun. So the shoot was crazy. I'm trying to remember the exact numbers. It was either 80 pages in 7 days or 70 pages in 8 days, but whatever it was, it was crazy.
That is crazy.
And we set a record. It did 16 pages in 1 day, which was like a new record, which was insane.
Yeah. What was that day like? You just got flying through setups.
It was crazy. I mean, we had 2 cameras, and again, it was great because Aaron and I just really good shorthand, and he's fast, and like it all looked good, and aesthetically too. Like it was, that kind of handheld office modern, rather than a laugh track, you zoom, that type of thing. Which is great because you don't have to overly light things, but the stuff we did light looked good, but yeah, it was just crazy, and it was like crazy stuff too, where we the location that we shot outside. So on the big page day, we were shooting outside for the majority of the day, and the location that they picked, we had this locations guy who assured us that like this location would be great, and then he was gone the day of the shoot because he was doing locations on another shoot. Wow. And then when he was there, he was smoking weed in his car. So this guy was a delight. And he, but the location he picked was right next to a recycling plant.
Oh, great.
And like only a mile or two from some airport in Van Nuys. And so we literally like lost an hour and a half of that day just to standing and waiting. Because like somebody would be crushing bottles at the recycling plant, or airplanes would be going by, or, I think a house was being built, and there was another house that had like a St. Bernard. Yeah, exactly.
The JP's deck area.
Like for real. Like so, it was just crazy.
What do you do in like a situation like that? Are you still just being chill and like rolling with it, or are you having?
Yeah, I mean, I think it all depends. It's stressful, but it's I think there's. Stuff like that is just kind of, it is what it is. I think I think the stuff that freaks me out more is like when you can't figure something out. So if like you're losing time because something's not working, that's stressful. If you're losing time because there's a recycling plant, there's nothing you can do about it. It's just like, well, not my fault. Yeah. But like, but yeah, fortunately we didn't have to deal with any of that. And so yeah, in those situations it just sucks. But it's like, I got enough on my plate that if it's too noisy, like, not my fault.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I bumped the thing. So yeah, it's stressful, it's crazy, it's exhausting, but it's also like your adrenaline kicks in when you have like an hour left to shoot 2 pages and just madness, and so yeah, it was crazy, but it was a lot of fun, and it turned out good, and yeah.
And you also directed the video they did afterwards, right?
Yeah, and that was a weird one too, because again, being as diplomatic as but it was just weird because coming from internet world where internet's the Wild West, and then this big network wanting to work internet, it was crazy because the amount of like restrictions we had to deal with, things we could and couldn't do in the video. Like there was some line about like a joke about having sex with a goat, so I wanted to get a goat in the video because we're on a dance floor and get a goat.
Yeah.
But then like lawyers got involved about like you can't have anyone standing next to the goat, or like no one can touch the goat during, or we can see the goat but not on the line where he says sex with the goat, because it's like they have this huge corporate brand they have to protect, and so it's just this weird thing where it's like it's like going into the Wild West. It was just weird because it's like internet is like you kind of do whatever you want.
Exactly.
And even if there is controversy around it, that's how it gets passed around on the internet.
Right.
So
People like it.
Yeah, I mean, I produced another podcast for UCB, and we had Jess McKenna was on, and she was talking about there was like a changing of the guards, like halfway through production, that sort of influenced that, or something like that. There's like a president change or something like that.
Yeah, she probably knows more about it than I do, but my understanding is like, because we shot all of it like 6 months ago, and it's done. It's just been waiting to be released, and in that time, there was a new president or someone new up top who saw it and was like, "Oh, this is too vulgar," and they ended up cutting 3 of the. Was it 6 episodes? 8 episodes? 3. I can't remember. 3. I think it was 3 of the 8 episodes they cut, including my favorite one, like everyone's favorite one. There's this one right in the middle that's just mwah, and because it was just too vulgar or something. But it was crazy because like. Again, it's like the Justin Bieber character is vulgar, and then Zach and Jess kind of help him get better. So it's like even if it was vulgar, it has a happy ending every time. So they fortunately were able to get them to keep the one episode that we all loved. Yeah. But still, when it was released, it's just missing 2 full episodes.
Wow.
Which is weird. But I guess stuff like that just happens all the time. Like when I was at Nickelodeon, stuff like that happened all the time. Yeah. Change the guard all the time and
just gone.
Yeah, like when I was there, I was like, everyone there loved me. It was like, oh, Ian this, Ian that. And then I left for 2 months to go to a movie. And then when I came back, everyone was gone. And they'd like restructured the whole place. And
that's wild.
The division I was working for was just shut down. And that's that. So
the joys of like production company.
Oh yeah, it's just
very secure.
I mean, it's a weird biz, man.
Yeah.
But
so before, so there was the unnamed art district company. Then there was the Serious Music with ABC. But in between that, you did a feature, right? Or was it the feature after the ABC tour?
The feature started to happen. Like it was while we were shooting Serious Music is when it first started kind of happening, and then because of the Beach Pizza experience, at no point did I let myself think a feature was happening. Like, even while we were shooting, I was like, but so then that kind of magically happened during immediately after Serious Music kind of got into that. And that one, again, I'll leave names out, but probably the most Hollywood phone call I've ever gotten in my entire life was it was the producer that wasn't as forthcoming about the funding Beach Pizza had. And so understand, I was a little annoyed with him, and I get this phone call. I hadn't spoken to him months, and then he's like, "Ian, how you doing, buddy?" Just like, "Good, how are you?" And I'm sure he could tell I wasn't too excited to talk to him. At a certain point, he's like, "Listen, man, I get it. Okay, I fucked you. Okay, I fucked you. Get over it. I got a movie for you." So that's how I got brought onto this feature. And I guess the great story about the feature was it's this. So it's this horror thriller called The Ninth Passenger, and I didn't know anything about it. He just sent me the script, and so I read the script, and in reading it, it's a bunch of sexy 20-somethings who go out on a yacht, and a monster comes on board, and one by one kills them off.
Yeah.
And reading it, it was so what's a nicer word for generic? Like, it was just such a classic. It was so by the numbers monster movie. That to me, I was like, this is awesome. You can do anything with this. Like, you could go, it was just almost like being given, a blank canvas and just go nuts. It could be, you could go Wet Hot American Summer with it. You could go extremely gory and scary with it. You could go Hitchcocky with it. You could go, I don't know, Guy Ritchie. Like you could do whatever. Like you could, any style would work with this.
The genre, like that's all hidden. That genre is like doing a genre piece is nice.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and horror is the most creative genre. Like you can do anything because scary.
Right.
So anyhow, so when I read the script, I was super excited. Like, oh, you can do anything with this. And so went in and had the meeting with the like executive producer and then the guy who called me and basically we just talked about it. So the first thing I asked him was like, well, how are you picturing it? And he's like, I don't know, just kind of want to see what you have. And so I kind of gave him my spiel of like, well, you can do anything you want with this. Like, you could go this way, you could go that way, you could go that way. And one of the ideas I pitched was like, you could make this whole thing like a 90s throwback. Like, it could take place in the 90s, like, it could be homage to like Scream and all that. Like it could be hilarious, like if one of the dudes is being eaten to a Dave Matthews song. Like, it was just like, you know, you could do whatever. And then I started talking about another approach, and like that was the whole meeting. And then at the end of the meeting, he was finally like, well, you know, I always pictured it kind of like Drive, you know, on a boat, like that aesthetic, that feel. And I was like, well, there you go. That makes like you can do that too. Like all of these make perfect sense, and it's all doable. And so I left the meeting and whatever. And so like an hour later, the guy calls me back and he's like, Ian, meeting didn't go too well.
Oh, wow.
I was like, oh, really? And he's like, yeah, he really doesn't like the Dave Matthews idea. He's like, apparently after you said Dave Matthews, just kind of tuned out and just wasn't interested.
Wow.
And I just like saw red.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay. And I was just like, because I hate Dave Matthews.
Yeah.
I can't stand Dave Matthews. I was like, I'm going to lose a movie because of Dave Matthews. And so, like, Schmidt and I, my wife and I, we went to some party, and, like, I just, like, couldn't, like, hang out. I was just so mad. And so I was like, we got to get back home. And so we came back home, and I immediately was like, all right, you want Drive on a Boat? I'll give you Drive on a Boat. And I started, like, pulling all these YouTube, like, all these cool movies that have the right aesthetic. Like, old horror movies are, like, 80s, you know, just that aesthetic. And then found a sweet track with that aesthetic, and I cut together this 2.5 minute, like, sizzle reel, picked the right font, and just like sent this dude an email being like, listen, man, like I can understand not being the right fit for a movie, but I'm not losing a movie because of Dave fucking Matthews. Like, you want to Drive on a Boat? Here it is.
Yeah.
And then woke up in the morning and he's like, all right, you're the guy, let's do it.
Oh, that's great.
And so that's like how it happened, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly.
But
That's a nice like power move.
well, and it was one of those things too. Like there was no strategy to it. It was just like no. Like Dave, like no. Like Dave Matthews, the fact that I will be hanging out and just out of nowhere will just say, "Hack up your skirt a little more." The fact that that's just in my brain already is like I've had enough of it. And so the fact that and so that was like a pretty cool thing, and it was pretty exciting. It's like, oh, cool, I guess I'm making a movie now. And so from then on, it was just a couple months here in LA of like prep and
I remember that. Yeah.
trying to work on the script and all that. But at no point, because of the Beach Pizza experience, at no point did I let myself think I was actually making a movie. And I didn't even tell anyone. Like, I told no one about this. Even like some of my closest friends, I just didn't even tell them until like it was a little more legit.
Yeah.
And then when they started doing the casting for it, I guess some friends who were actors saw the casting post, and then I got like bombarded with like, "Hey, you're making a movie in Vancouver?"
Yeah.
And so that's when I had to like tell people. When I was like hated telling people because I just didn't know if it was actually going to happen or not. But eventually it did, and I went up to Vancouver and I was up there for 5 weeks, 2 months total. And I went up there with expecting to have 5 weeks of prep, but because of a bunch of craziness, we ended up going into this feature with 4 days of prep.
What?
So when you compare that to the serious music thing of, 80 pages or 70 pages, whatever it is, and we had a month of prep, we went into a 106-page feature. The majority of it takes place on a boat on water with 4 days of prep.
What?
And it was insane.
What were the 4 days of prep dedicated to?
So basically, again, being diplomatic, but a lot of it was trying to get the script to a point where we could shoot it. So, like, the majority of the movie takes place on a yacht.
Yeah.
And the producers were having trouble finding a yacht. It's hard to get a yacht.
Yeah.
So that was a big part of it, yeah. And then, but the way the script was written before we had a yacht. So, like, we got a yacht. We got the yacht 2 weeks ahead, or a week. We actually got the yacht, I think it was a week before our start date. And so immediately I had to rewrite the script to match the actual layout of the yacht.
Gotcha.
Like, there were certain rooms in the script that didn't exist, and like, but the yacht, we were up in Vancouver, but the yacht was in Washington, so we couldn't see the yacht till the day we started shooting on the yacht. So all I had were some pictures to go off of. So I was like printing out these diagrams, and then I had to like figure out the logic for each scene. You know, like, all right, if she's being chased by the monster in this room, but so and so is in the other room, and hears it, well, then they need to be in this room. You know, just kind of figuring all that out based on these photos.
That should be what film school is.
Oh, it was crazy. Yeah, and it was pretty cool. But there was just there's like friction. I think I had some issues with the writer just because I was just trying to turn this into something we could shoot, and I think he kind of viewed it as like me attacking the script, and like I was just being as pragmatic as possible. Just like, we have to change, we have to do this, and then so I spent like a good chunk up there by myself in an office with a line producer, just trying to rewrite the script into something we could shoot based on the information I was getting as we were getting it. But so a week ahead of our start date, we finally got the boat. But we had nowhere to put the boat. And the majority, it's a movie that the majority of it takes place on a yacht. Majority of it takes place at night on a yacht. And so my big pitch was like, well, let's find somewhere we can dock this thing that's just got open water behind us, so at night we can just shoot off and whatever. But the only marina they were able to find for it was in downtown Vancouver. So any of our exterior yacht night stuff was looking at the city skyline. Like, there's no way to escape it. So then it's like, well, let me get back in the script. All right, this scene that took place on the deck is now inside, you know. Yeah. So unfortunately, a lot of like time that would have been good to prep was spent rewriting the script. And then like, we didn't have any locations, and there's a million reasons why this stuff was going on, but basically, and we didn't have our ADs, which is crazy. And so what happened was, we didn't have, the reason we had 4 days of prep is the ADs showed up 4 days before we started. So they hired ADs 4 days before we started. And at this point, I was the only one who knew the script, because the script had to be changed so much. So even scheduling the movie, I had to schedule it with the ADs, and like, we had to actually cut out strips because I was the only one who knew the layout of the boat. So I'm the only one who was like, well, we have to do this scene next to this scene.
No one else had even seen the boat or seen the script. So
exactly.
Just like explaining.
And then what happened, so that was crazy. So that was 4 days of prep. So we came up with a good schedule 4 days before we started. So then we had 3 days before we started, but we still didn't have our locations. So it was like this big scramble trying to get things figured out. The actors showed up 2 days before we started. So we had our first table read 2 days before we shot. And then after the table read, it was like, hey, we got to fix some things in the script. And it was like, the actors pointed out a lot of these plot holes that I'd been trying to fix. And it was nice having more people saying, like, hey, this is a plot hole, we got to fix it. So the day before we started shooting, I got up at like 5 a.m. to rewrite as much of the script as I could. And basically, and so like, that's what I'm doing the day before the shoot. And all this crazy stuff. I'm trying to like remember it all over. Like, it was just madness. Yeah. And and then we also found out, I think it was a day or two before we started, that our lead actor that we got, who's in almost every scene, we found out once he was brought on board and 2 days away from shooting and the schedule's been made, of the 19-day shoot, he would be unavailable for 5 days, including the first day of shooting. So 2 days before shooting, we had to scramble and redo the entire schedule. Yeah, it was crazy. And then also, his characters in the majority of the movie and practically all of the nighttime scenes, and the majority of the script takes place at night, and it's only dark for 6 hours a night in Vancouver. What? So like, this is what we were going into it. Like, we were going into the shoot with 2 days just to go. And it was just madness. Yeah. And so our very first day of the shoot, there were some issues, and so basically, the way that the whole shoot, and I could tell you crazy story after crazy story, like, it was insane. But basically, every day of the shoot, I would get up a couple hours before call time and shot list for the day. And then we would show up, and we had a very lean crew. There were so many things shooting in Vancouver that we had a very green crew. And so for me on a typical shoot, like the way that I go into a shoot is like, I like to be very prepared. So like I'll do overhead diagrams of rooms, and I'll actually map out like, for this camera, like in my shot list for this setup, cameras here, people here, dolly track here, like, and like if I have time too, like I print it out big and put it on a metal board and have magnets for the different things, just so everyone on the crew knows exactly what we're doing. This was not that, and so like I was going into it having not had time to figure out what I wanted to do. And fortunately, our DP was just awesome, and he was, I think, as desperate as me to make a movie.
Yeah.
So he ended up being like we couldn't have pulled it off without him. Like he was amazing. But yeah, we're just like flying by the seat of our pants, just kind of like figure. And then by the end of the shoot, like I would shot list like just what we needed. It was like a single of this guy saying this line, like, and then it was just like kind of block and shoot. And fortunately, like he had a really good eye and whatever. And just got some really cool looking stuff. But yeah, that's what I was going to say is like, so I like to be so prepared, and then like on the serious music shoot or like a typical like Nickelodeon or Funny or Die shoot, like those types of shoots got me used to working really fast. So like on an average shoot day, I'll do anywhere from like 20 to 35 setups.
Yeah.
On this movie, I think the most we did in a day was 12.
Oh, okay. So that
so my
so
my whole shooting style got thrown out of whack too, because all of a sudden, you know, all this type of coverage I'm used to getting or certain things that I'd want to get, all of a sudden we were just shooting whole masters for one scene.
Yeah.
And like, you know, so it was crazy. Fortunately, like every day I'd be amazed looking at the dailies, like, oh shit, it looks like a movie.
Yeah.
But it was, you know, far from what the experience I was hoping it would be in terms of, you know, I wasn't directing so much as just like, you know, it was like plugging holes on a boat, you know, like, and I felt bad too, because like the actors would, you know, we'd shoot a scene and some of them like had no idea what they were even doing, because I hadn't even had a chance to talk to them, because it's just like figuring out, or like anytime we would have time where I could go talk to an actor, I'd have to sit down with the ADs to figure out the next day's schedule, because something else would happen where we'd have to completely change, like that kept happening. I think we changed the schedule every day of the shoot. It was crazy. And then there are other highlights too, like it's a monster movie, so the guy in the monster suit, you know, the monster suit maker said he needed at least 8 weeks minimum to make the monster suit. They gave him 2. And so the monster we ended up getting, like the first time we saw it was right before we shot it. Like that was the first time we saw the guy in the suit. And the actor in the suit was like 7'3", and we put him in the suit, and like after shooting a few scenes with him, he passed out because he couldn't breathe in the suit.
Oh my goodness!
And it was this crazy thing where this 7'3" or 8 foot tall monster is laying on the floor. They had to cut the head off.
What?
Pull him out, and he's like drooling and unconscious. We had to call an ambulance to come aboard the yacht.
God.
Like it was crazy. What? It was crazy.
That's awful.
Yeah, it was just and that was just one day of the shoot. Like it was the crazy. This was the crazy. Like I had a
day 2 of 19.
Oh, it was nuts, man. Yeah, so it was an experience for sure, and yeah, again, trying to be diplomatic, but there was a lot. I'll just say there was some miscommunication between me and the lead producers. So the first half of the shoot, there was a lot of basically. Someone was feeding us information about the other that was not true. Like, extremely not true.
Yeah.
And so me and the producers were just, like, yelling at each other at times. Like, it was nasty. And then at some point, something happened where all of a sudden we realized, wait, I never said that. And then they're like, well, I never said that. And we had this hour and a half long, like, I never said that back and forth. And now we're all, like, best friends. But it was insane. And whoever this person was, it turns out, had another friend who's a director and was trying to maybe, yeah, like, crazy stuff. Like, again, I don't want to say, you know.
We have to ask that after we start.
Yeah. It was basically, it was crazy. So it was, the whole experience was just absolutely crazy. And so, but at the same time, hey, I shot a movie. Like, and so it's like it's like all these things where it's like, on one hand, it's like, oh my, I went through this crazy nightmare, but at the other hand, it's like, I shot a movie 4 months beginning to end. Like, so it's just kind of like, and the experience was just incredible. Like,
Well, did you? So you basically punched up the entire thing. Do you think that helped you out at all, as far as like being able to make it and direct it? As far as like, all right, I wrote most of this movie now, or I'm assuming most of it.
but that's the thing. Yeah, that's a whole side of it I probably shouldn't get into. But yeah, I think what we're running into now with the edit. Yeah, I should probably be. I didn't punch it up as much. I couldn't punch it up as much as I would have liked to.
Okay,
I'll
gotcha.
just put it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I'll just leave it at there because who knows? Who knows? Who knows? This thing could be huge, and I don't want to be the one naysayer.
But 5 picture friends.
But yeah, I mean, it was, and that was a hard thing for me too. Is like, I'm used to writing my own stuff, or at least being pretty collaborative with the writer, and so it was just tricky to have to fight so hard to just try to get something to make sense to me, because that was like my biggest fear, and I'm pretty vocal about it. Is like, I understand it's written, but I don't get it.
Yeah.
So if an actor asks me why am I doing this? And my response is, I don't know, it's in the script.
Yeah.
Like, that's not helping anyone. And then that ended up happening on the shoot, where they'd be like, well, why am I doing this? It doesn't make sense. And I'd be like, no, it doesn't. It makes no sense.
And action.
Yeah, exactly. And so,
back to one.
yeah, and so it'd be like, well, what do you think you should do? It works for me, let's do it. So we ended up doing a lot of that on the fly.
How do you normally like to work with actors?
That was something I also learned on the movie that was interesting. Is I realized that like most of who I've worked with are comedy actors, or what do you say? Like, not comedian. Like, I get actors.
I don't know.
Well, it's just different. Like after I did the movie, I read the Lance Hendrickson autobiography, Bishop from Aliens, and it was really cool because he.
You still have that?
Yeah, if you want to borrow it, it's
I'll
amazing.
borrow that.
It's really cool. But his whole thing is like, he was like his life story is crazy, but he was like some runaway orphan basically who just got into acting, who didn't know anything about it. So it was real interesting to like read him explain what it is to act. Because like I've always done stuff in front of the camera, but I've never considered myself an actor. Like I can perform in front of a camera, but I can't become someone or like find a moment. So like that on the movie, that was that was a huge learning experience for me. Is like most of what I've done is comedy.
Yeah.
So there, like for instance, like we were shooting this scene where one of the actresses had to cry, and we're shooting like on this beach. And as we're shooting, it was I think it was some holiday in Canada. So as we're shooting, these like fireworks had gone off while we're shooting. We had to cut and let the fireworks finish, and then we start rolling again. And as we're shooting, and she's finally got the tears coming down, this party boat just comes around the bend playing "Who Let the Dogs Out." And it was just like, everyone's like, are you fucking kidding me? And it was so loud, and it just kept going, and we're like, cut. And it was just this thing where like, I'm just like losing my mind, so I just start like dancing. I'm like, yo, spring break, y'all, let's have a party. And she had to like tell me to stop, because for her, it's like, oh, I got to stay in this like crying. And it was just one of those things where I just didn't even think about it. And so like, I think a huge learning experience for me on the movie was like, the actual dramatic acting, or like, or just understanding the way different people approach things. Because I think I'm just used to like, all right, what are we doing? Cool, let's go. And so like, there are a couple of the actors that were like that, and then a couple other ones that needed a lot more information or needed more prep. And again, I also didn't have the time to sit down. Like I would have loved to like have just sat down with everyone and just kind of talked about everything, but didn't really get that. But that was definitely like, between kind of some of those learning experiences on the movie and then reading that book, I was like, ooh, I need to understand what acting actually is more, because like I understand story, I understand how to sprinkle cinnamon on something, like like I understand all that, but it's actually like, oh yeah, I don't know like what's going on in their heads when I'm talking to them.
That's still the part that I have the hardest time with, is like talking to like dramatic acting. Like comedy, I have a pretty decent grasp on, but like talking, like how to do like a dramatic scene where someone needs to cry, I have no idea what I would say to get them there.
Yeah. I mean, it was weird stuff. Like we had a bunch of making out scenes, and just everyone's uncomfortable. So I ended up directing a ton of the movie in a fake European accent, just cause. So like the majority of the movie, I would talk like this, and I'd be like sitting at monitor, and they'd be like, All right, Ian, you ready? Da. I am ready to watch my movie now. And I remember we had to do this makeout scene. And we're shooting on a yacht, so it was real cramped. So it was like this makeout scene in the bedroom. And I spent the entire day, because that whole day we shot in that room. Mm-hmm. And so I spent the whole day sitting on a toilet in that bedroom, like in the bathroom.
Hemorrhoid City.
Yes, exactly. Sitting on a toilet in a bathroom on a yacht, looking at a monitor, and directing this makeout scene. And so it was just so weird. So I just started being like, actor meat. I want you to lay down on other actor meat and kiss. And then at a certain point, and then like started directing the makeout scene like Buffalo Bill from Science, because they're just hearing some voice from the bathroom. So it's like, oh, yeah, just give her a kiss. And I think the shoot was so crazy that I think like just trying to make it as fun as possible. Yeah, and I mean, for the most part, everyone got along, and I think everyone understood it was crazy too. So there was definitely some tension here and there, but overall, it certainly could have been a lot worse given the circumstances. Yeah.
Is it in the editing process now, or is it done editing?
Yeah, we're in the edit right now. So we're editing. A good buddy of mine, Marcus Scadby, there was another issue where they hired a Canadian editor, but with the baby on the way, I wasn't going to go up to Canada for a month to edit, and he couldn't come down here to edit. So we ended up changing editors to my buddy Marcus, who lives a mile from here, and so it's been nice. Like I can just sit in while we're going through it, and so it's certainly coming together. Yeah. But I think the hardest thing for me, it's really hard to look at it objectively because I had so many ideas and plans and all the time and energy I put into the planning, and then just because of the way the production went, like none of it kind of went the way I planned. So it's like even scenes that turned out fine or good, it's not what I planned. So it's really hard for me to divorce myself from like the expectation.
I think that's something people always do. Like I feel like you're always gonna have a little bit of that. At least I have personally.
Yeah, I mean, it's that whole thing. I think a lot of it too is it's that wherever you go, there you are thing. Yeah, where it's like for years I've been doing all these gigs that I can't stand, and I'm like, well, I just want to make a movie. Like if I ever get to make a movie, I can say I did it. Even if it's just one shitty movie, I can say I did it, and then that's it. Then I can do whatever else I want in my life because I succeeded in my goal. Yeah. Well, I made a movie now. It's not good enough. And I need to go make another movie to do it right. You know, like, so I think it's, unfortunately, that's just kind of wherever you go, there you are, you know. But yeah, so we'll see. So hopefully this thing will be done, and, I mean, We've got about a third of it done. I'm really excited to see like the second and third act once we start getting into the. And it was cool too because we were so limited with like gear. Like we shot the whole movie with
We shot on a red.
We shot on a red. Yeah, we shot on a red, and then but because of like budget, like the yacht ended up costing way more than we expected, so our budget kind of got thrown all over the place. So like. And because it's a yacht, we couldn't get like a really
crazy pack.
Yeah, like a doll, like a bomb ass dolly. Yeah. So we shot the whole thing on a slider, like a Dana dolly. The one that's just speed rail and So we shot the whole thing on that, and then a 6-foot jib arm. And
so you're not going up crazy high.
Yeah, but what we ended up doing is like there's one shot in particular that was pretty amazing, and it's like the DP who's operating it. It's like the shot's pretty amazing, especially if you know what we had to do, because we're shooting on top of this yacht at sunset, leaving the marina. So moving on a yacht at sunset with this 6-foot jib arm set up on the roof of the yacht, aimed down at a porthole, and this girl climbs out of the porthole, and basically the DP's doing like some contortionist shit to like, we're looking down the porthole, then we come up with her, we spin all the way around to find a dude at a Zodiac, land on his face, and then swing and pull out, and then follow them all the way across the roof, and it looks like a Steadicam shot, but it's this 6-foot jib arm, and because it was sunset, DP couldn't even see the monitor, so he's just kind of guessing.
Oh, that's awesome!
And it turned out like it looks awesome. But it's one of those things that like, I think it's also that weird thing because it is a good shot. It just looks good. It's just kind of like, all right, good. You're supposed to have good looking shots. And so it's like no one's gonna see the shot knowing how crazy it was. They're just be like, oh, okay, it's a movie. Yeah, a movie should have cool shots. What else you got?
You get no plus ones.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just kind of like, it's like, great, we have cool shots. We should. But like, so that was like, it was fun. Like any of those little moments where we were able to like come up with something really cool. But dude, we were doing crazy. Like we were doing all those like boats on water. Like there's this whole scene we were shooting. We're up on a pier, a big wooden pier, and it's this one 30-foot boat is approaching another 30-foot boat, and we're up on the pier shooting down at it, and no one took into account the current. And so what happened was the one boat approaches and then crashes into the other boat, which crashes into the pier, which starts shaking the whole pier. And we have like 40 people up on this pier and all the camera gear, and the whole thing's swaying back and forth. And then the one boat that's getting crushed between the pier and the other thing, like it's wooden, like diving board, whatever you climb out of the water on the back, is like cracking, and like chunks of wood are like snapping and going. And I'm just like, watch it. Like it was insane. I was just like waiting for this pier to fall in the water. Like it was just madness. So it was like, just it's crazy.
But you finished it and you came back.
Came back, got to do 2 months in Vancouver, which was amazing. And
by the way, when you got back, people he was wearing from clean head to toe Canadian gear, drinking Canadian beer.
Oh yeah, man! I went full Canadian up there. I was referring to myself as Canadian. And yeah, the crew was awesome. Like one by one, they were giving me like pieces of Canadian paraphernalia. So like, I had a Canadian scarf. Like one dude just gave me a shirt out of his car that said A on it. And then on the very last day of the shoot, I went to this liquor store and bought 2 24-packs of Molson.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Just passing them out to the crew and just, hey, you want to go take a rip there and drink some Molson, eh? Maybe go to Canadian Tire? And so like all things too, it's like it was just so crazy, and it was crazy for everyone. So it's like it really was kind of like
you guys have gone through war.
Yeah, I mean, but holy shit, man, it's madness. And then when we did, I don't know why this just popped in my head, but on the days where we would shoot the all-nighters, when I'd be driving home at 5 a.m, I'd listen to Shaggy Boombastic. Oh, Mr. Loba Loba. Oh, Mr. Loba Loba. Oh, that's a good end of the day song.
Yeah, that is a really good song.
Oh, Mr. Loba Loba. Oh. I don't know why that popped in my head.
So now you're just kind of chilling the edit. You got anything coming up, or you're just kind of processing this and trying to figure?
Yeah, I mean. Yeah, so I got back, and we've got this new baby popping out.
Oh, yeah,
in a week.
Drops.
Yeah, the new Pfaff drops. So, yeah, new baby popping out in a week. And so basically, since I got back, it's just been nonstop squirrel, hustle, acorns. Like, any gig I can get, I've just taken it. Because I want to take a couple weeks off when this baby gets here. So, been fortunate to get some gigs, and so who knows what this year... But it's so crazy, because it's like... As I've gone through this year, it's just felt crazy because I've just been by the seat of my pants, like month by month, new gigs and just crazy new experiences. And like as I'm in it, it's been pretty daunting and just like, holy, like what am I doing with my life? Oh my god, like am I a failure? What's happening? But all of a sudden, I just realized like, oh, I've only been back from Beach Pizza for like a year and 2 weeks. So it's oh, it really was only 1 year, and in that one crazy awful year, I made a movie. So it's like, oh, okay, well, who knows what's going to happen this year? So yeah, again, it's like kind of the best and worst year at the same time.
Best of times and worst of times.
Yeah, and like because I made that switch to freelance unplanned, I basically, with the exception of 2 months in Vancouver, I spent every day at home with the baby.
Oh, that's nice.
So, so I think like when it's been a nightmare going through this, but like I think when I look back at this time, it's gonna be like, oh, I had an awesome time at home every day with Junior, and it's kind of the best and worst year.
Yeah.
And we've had a lot of fire beers, a lot of good hangs.
Oh yeah, a lot of great hangs.
Yeah,
That's good.
Yeah, that's gonna be the last fire beer for a while.
Yeah, well, I think the neighbors finally complained. We've had 2 in a row where the neighbors asked us to put the fire out because of the smoke. So I'm guessing. My hunch is it's been they've had issues for a while and finally had to say something. So Good news is we have a propane fire pit. So we might just, we might just switch to the propane.
Right as the credits in.
Yeah.
Come up.
He pops up. Bottom of the ocean.
But see, that again, I hope I didn't want to come off too gripey because all this movie stuff's so gripey.
No, I
don't think so.
we don't know is that like your version of gripe is like a 3 on the scale of 1 to angry. You're a very knowledgeable person, so.
Gripe, yeah. But yeah, I mean, we'll see how this thing turns out. I feel like, best case scenario, it's a fun little monster movie. Worst case scenario, it's a good movie to drink some beers and just be like, oh boy.
So we gotta do Too Fast, Too Furious.
Well, and you got to do Close But No Ziggler.
That's if you could pitch that podcast.
Oh yeah, so here's the Close But No Ziggler is Cody Ziegler brings someone on who tries to get in Cody's mind, tries to tap in there and get something, and he'll get him close, and then he'll just say sorry, close but no Ziggler. Kind of podcast.
We'll shoot that. We'll do that.
Yeah,
you can be the first host on it.
All right. Tell me about your childhood.
Close but no cigar.
The end. Yeah, they'll be real quick.
Yeah. 2-minute podcast. That'd be a funny bit.
Half of it is just Squarespace ads. And
Yeah. Brought to you by Audible.
All right, well, before we head out, any questions that you need to have? Anything that
my only question would be, can you do your business voice when we ask you about your plug?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, sure. Listen, gentlemen, I have no idea what you need me to plug. I guess I would invite people to come check out the garage in Glendale, where I do all of my work, freelance or for fun, passion projects, and business. On a laptop, on a wooden desk in the garage.
All right, folks. Yeah. Well, that was the second team out.
All right, thank you guys.
Ian Pfaff in.
Yay, spring break.
Right.
Sprinkle some cinnamon on it.
Oh girl, I know you never been with a robot. You're gonna wake up tomorrow with a story to tell. 'Cause girl, you about to get it on with robo-kills. Girl, I see your body moving in the club. Girl, you got a body that I wanna love. Need to get freaky, get all up in that ass. I'll be over once I finish this Patron in my glass. I ain't like these other N-words, go ahead and ask them. They flaunting fake gold, but N-word, I made a platinum titanium dip. Powered by a piston. Girl, I need you to listen. Girl, when I look at you, I think about what I wanna do to your body. Get real freaky, get real naughty, get real kinky. Girl, when we leave this club, we gonna freak and make some love. Hit that ass,
Deck with a robot.
feel that booty,
Deck with a robot.
feeling freaky.
Deck with a robot.
It sound real squeaky.
Deck with a robot.
Sex system online, girl, you looking so fine. Pleasure sensor calibrated, climax time calculated. Smooth talking flatteries, fully charged batteries. Now we both lubricated.
Deck has been initiated.
All of my servos are programmed to serve. My infrared sensors are scanning your curves. Find your G-spot with my sonar blips. Leave your legs shaking with my vibrating lips. Get you so wet, you fry my motherboard. Sparks will start flying, gonna beg me for more. Come on, girl, I don't mean to be pushy, but take it from me, I'm the NASA of pussy. Girl, when I look at you, when I look at you, about what I wanna do, what I wanna do. Tonight, get real freaky, get real naughty, get real kinky. Girl, when we leave this club, we gonna freak and make some love. Hit that ass, sex with a robot. Feel that booty, sex with a robot. Feeling freaky, sex with a robot. It sound real squeaky, sex with a robot. I'm solar power, sex with a robot. Invite your friends, sex with a robot. Won't get you pregnant, sex with a robot. Leave you bow-legged, sex with a robot. I got USB ports, baby. Sex with a robot. You can charge your phone while we get it on. You can charge your phone while we get it on.
Deck with a robot.
Hey folks, what's this? That's right, it's actually an outro, the very first outro we've ever done for the second team. I know you've probably been wanting them secretly for the past 39 episodes. Well, guess what? You finally got it. Anyway, I'm just doing this outro to let you know that the song that you just heard was the single that Robo Kells wrote for the music video that we mentioned earlier in this episode. I thought it'd be fun to stick it along and let you groove to it because it's a great song. So enjoy.